everyone. This is your host tonight, Laurie Hood, and it is April 14th, 2019, and you are listening to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. Tonight we're continuing the Memorium on Mike Wooley, and tonight is part 2. Lauren's not going to be here tonight. Next Sunday is Easter, and we won't be having a show then, so just want to let everyone know we want you to have a wonderful Easter and a safe one. June 20th, 2014, Lone Star Legends Radio, a sublet of Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio, interviewed Mike Wooley, Gary Wiggens, and Debi McMartin. The interview was nearly 3 hours long. Mike Wooley passed away Friday, April 5th, 2019 at around 9 p.m. In memory of Mike and his tremendous efforts in the Bigfoot community, Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio is going to share these hidden archives in a 2-part series. Tonight is part 2 of this interview. The show left off with we were speaking with Gary Wiggens. So that's where we'll pick up. Rest in peace, Mike. You'll be missed very much. Prayers have been answered. His family is feeling the peace, and that's a good thing, but keep your prayers going. And for all of you listening out there, thank you for listening to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio.
Well, at nighttime, the woods, the noises, they're real busy. You can hear, insects, especially the frogs. If you're near water, they're making a lot of racket.
They're almost deafening. Yes.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, it was like the woods just got mysteriously quiet, and that kind of got my attention. Kind of stopped what I was doing, and then I heard a large crash and another large crash, sound like a tree falling, and then like limbs breaking, and it was coming toward us from the woods. I guess from would be the southeast, something like that. And the closer it got, the more noise it made. It actually seemed like it was shaking some of the trees. And if you look up, we had a moon that come up, and if you look up toward the top of the trees, you could see almost some of the trees bend, almost like somebody was going through some grass or something, And then I heard a cackle and a growl and some other noises. It never did the roar that a lot of people talk about, but it made enough noise and sounds. It scared me. It really. It frightened me, and my girlfriend to this day, she always said that she felt safe with me until she saw the fear in my eyes, and she was really scared. And I guess she did the quickest picking everything up and shoving it in that trailer you've ever seen. And I said we got to go now. We took off, and we drove all the way up to the Huntsville State Park. And it was loaded with people that night for whatever reason, we pulled up amongst all those people and spent the night there that night,
Yeah, you felt safe with all those other people around, didn't you?
Yeah, I figured if somebody was going to get eaten, it'd take a while to get to us,
Yeah, you had a fair chance anyway.
Where Huntsville State Park adjoins the Sam Houston National Forest, and it's just a number of miles north from where we had our little encounter there, And ever since then, I've lost my nerve as far. Back then I used to do a lot of hunting, and I don't do that anymore. I've kind of lost my nerve, and the fun of spending the night in the woods has kind of been taken away from me, Kind of a weird deal. But I wanted to...
Well, that would do it to you. That would. Especially if you didn't have a chance to kind of gradually move into that, I mean, now that wouldn't scare me. But if that happened to me initially, I believe I'd be in the same boat. But since I gradually got into it and gradually started experiencing things, so far I'm just not scared. But I've been scared. Don't get me wrong. I've had where I've had shadows on the tent that I knew was, I've had my foot grabbed through the tent and things like that. But it was just, I guess I've just done it so long that I just don't get scared anymore. I don't know if there's something wrong with me mentally. But anyway, go ahead with your story.
Well, anyway, the lady who was on earlier, well, what's her name, Linda?
Yes.
Okay, she was...
Linda, the lady that was on earlier is Debi.
Okay, well,
Debi,
anyway...
King McMartin.
Okay, well, anyway, she was mentioning something about the spiritual aspect of what these creatures might be, or if there's some kind of a supernatural connection or whatever. If you go to the Bible, you go to the Old Testament, they mention the giants quite often in there. It talks about the giants. In the book of Enoch, it talks about how where these things come from. It talks about the fact that before the days of Noah, that there was a group of 200 angels that came down and had sex with women and had children, and the offspring of this unholy relationship were called Nephilim, and they were referred to as the giants of old. And what's interesting is if you go look this up, there are several references to it, but it says these giants are descended from the fallen angels and the daughters of Adam. It says they're basically three classes of the original giants, and in the Jewish texts or their writings, they concede that these giants had many names, and they were called, one name was called, if I pronounce this right, Eman, E-M-I-M. And it says, because whoever saw one of them was seized with terror. And another name referring to them was Rapium, because their sight made people soft and fearful like wax. Also, they make reference that they ate oxen and horses and even the inhabitants of the land during that time. They're referred to as also they had, because even though they were flesh, they were descended from these fallen angels. They had psychic abilities, mind control, and they were extremely intelligent. And I believe, because all the way down through time, from the Bible all the way down, there's been encounters with these things all over the world. There's a reference to where Cadesa de Vaca, he was a Spanish explorer, was shipwrecked on Galveston Island in 1540 and spent 7 years with the Indian tribes here in Texas, traveling from one tribe to another. It took him 7 years. He finally made it down to Mexico City and got back home to Spain. But he lived with a group of Indians, and in his personal journal, whatever he says, they were attacked by a tribe of fierce, hairy giants that consumed human flesh. One of the early Viking explorers, was named Leif Erikson. He said when he landed at Newfoundland, in his writings, he said they also encountered a race of hairy giants that, like they did them all in, that consumed human flesh, and they had to withdraw, and come back another day. Also, the native people in Canada, for instance, the native Indians called Dog-Rib tribes, D-O-G-R-I-B, cautioned the first explorers in the northwestern areas of Canada that vicious creatures prowled the region. and it says they were home to 8-foot and taller yellow-eyed monsters who feasted on human flesh, showing a preference for small women and children. But,
oh, my stars. I'm glad they don't do that nowadays.
Do what?
I'm glad they don't do that nowadays.
Well, who's to say they don't, People come up missing all the time, and if you get those books, there's 4 of them now, called Missing 411, this police officer has done an investigation on all missing people in the national parks across the country, both western United States and the eastern United States. There's clusters, areas that for the last 100 years, there's a lot of people come up missing, and in every case of these missing people, the circumstances are very similar. And usually they don't find the people, or if they do find them, there may be just a 1 or 2 or just a few bone fragments. In some instances, they do find them, but it's really odd. When they find them, they'll be laying face down in a stream somewhere, maybe with no clothes at all, or maybe just a shirt or something on. And that's including deer hunters and hikers and campers and all kinds of stuff. So don't know what's going on. I'm not saying, but I know that there's been quite a few people in the Sam Houston National Forest over the years that have come up missing. You would have to go and say that. You would have to go and say that, Gary. I camp in Texas all the time. Now, you would have to go and say that people turn up missing in Texas. I'm thinking, let's keep this up in the Pacific Northwest, or Yosemite or Yellowstone or somewhere like that, but not Texas. No, don't ruin it for me. I love to camp. Well, I hate to say this, but Mike's little encounter there. I hate to say this, but if he hadn't had that rifle, I think he would have ended up in the stew pot, because I think those boys, they intended to do bodily harm to him, and I think the fact that he fired that gun, probably he had 2 of them on him, and he fired that gun, and that probably caused them to hesitate just long enough for him to get his truck started and get out of there. The good thing is.
Do you also would you consider the possibility that maybe the reason why they were so aggressive towards him was that it was because he had a gun?
No, I think they know what the gun.
If he had been unarmed, they may not have been so aggressive.
Yeah, but then there's a lot of campers that come up missing that are not armed either. What I'm saying is, I think the gun's what saved his life. I really do. I don't think they attacked him particularly because he had a gun. I've heard other interviews with people that had extreme aggression addressed toward them, and they weren't armed, and they just were able. They fled the scene and were able to get into their vehicle before before it got a hold of them or whatever, because they hunt. They hunt in groups. I'm convinced of that, and you might see one, but there's probably 3 more. I mean, Mike's lucky that there wasn't a 3rd one, and he went to drive down that road, and they didn't push a tree over across in front of the road to block him in, because you hear all the time where people will go in a particular place, and then when they try to come out, even on a road, there'll be a log laying across the road, or maybe 2 or 3 trees laying across the trail or whatever. And I think it's the creature's way to try to block you in, until they get around you,
Well, I've had experience with trees bowing over the road. You go into an area, and then when you go back, there's a tree bowed over the road where, generally a pine tree, where you just barely can get your car underneath the bow to get back in there where you were. Also, we've been to areas where trees were uprooted out of the ground and laid across the road where we could not get back into the area again. I think that would keep us out. That was pretty apparent to us. But I've had a lot of experiences in a lot of different states, and I've seen aggression. I've been bluff charged 3 times. I've had growling. I've had stuff thrown at me. Big rocks thrown into the lake. I know what I can't imagine what it could be other than one of them, because there was no one else on this deer lease at the time but me and one other individual, and it was neither one of us.
Right.
But in all of these things, there was never we never felt, or I never felt like I was in danger. And
well, you're lucky.
Yeah, I was lucky. And to say this, I know there are people who have had experiences that were like Mike, where he was in true danger. He really was in danger. And I've talked to other people that really, I believe they were in danger. Because what we're dealing with is wild. It's wild. Right. And unpredictable. It's just like any other, and I don't want to say they're like any other animal because they really, truly aren't, I don't believe. But their nature is wild. And what they do to defend themselves, their family, their territory, their hunting grounds, their home, depends on the person that they're encountering. And most men will have more aggressive encounters than women do. For some reason, women have a less aggressive, I guess because we don't pose as much of a threat. And we have studied on this. We think some of it could be body language, testosterone, anything from that to that most men are hunters. And it's bred into them. They're hunters.
Well, let me refer to a story that's I listened to one of the interviews on this book, Missing 411, Western United States, where like Yosemite Park there's going back 100 years in this one particular area. There's a high number of people that have come up missing, and in most cases they don't find anything. However, there's this one story that I heard where there was a group of a dozen people. They were hiking on a major trail, and there's a young girl. I think she was 21 or whatever, and they had stopped for a break, and she said, "Well, I'm just going to go up around the bend here, and there was a lake down there, and I'll wait for you there." Well, they haven't. So she took off and went around the bend, and she hadn't been out of their sight 4 minutes, and she was gone. And they brought in dogs, and the dogs, they just go around circles. They'd cut the trail, and they wouldn't track it, whatever it was. Uh-huh. And helicopters, hundreds of people, whatever. Well, what was odd about this is, like, 6 months later, there was a group of rock climbers, mountain climbers, that do extreme climbing, and there's some big rock face there that's real, real high. And the only way you can get up there, you got to be a professional mountain climber. They climbed all the way to the top of this thing, and there's like a little stream up there, and they found her body laying face down, partially nude, in this creek. Now, how did she get up there? She was not a rock climber, Uh-huh. Something had to grab her and take her up there, and then did her in. And it went on to say that she was extremely sexually assaulted, violently. Uh-huh. So I don't think a group of mountain climbers took her up there, because when she came up missing for the next week or more, there was 100 people on the site, and they looked everywhere except up on top of this mountain. They looked everywhere. There was no way you could just go up there. You couldn't drive up there. You couldn't fly up there. Something had to climb up there and took her up there, And the dogs wouldn't trail it, And that's just one instance. I mean, those books are just full of that kind of stuff. And going back 100 years, and the cases are all similar. So, these things are opportunists, whatever they are. if they're the great-grandchildren of these Nephilim that are referred to in the Bible, which the Bible also says in the end times they'll remanifest themselves, because as in the time of Noah, during Jesus' return, there's supposed to be a reoccurrence of this kind of stuff. So is that what's going on? You know, I don't know. I'm just saying that it just seems awful strange. Like in Sam East National Forest, they find a lot of camps that are torn up. People come up missing on Lone Star Hiking Trail. They don't have a clue. They sometimes they try to write them off as there's some crazy guy out there that abducted somebody or murdered them or whatever.
Yeah, it could very well be.
It could very well be. You know. So all I'm saying is that, you know, it's not that you can't enjoy the parks and all that. It's just in this day and age, you just got to be watchful. You know, always be aware of your surroundings. You know.
Yeah. Well, you're just trying to ruin it for me, Gary, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm still going to go out there, and I'm still going to Bigfoot experience. That's what I call it nowadays, is Bigfoot experience. And I guess I really just don't want to believe they're that way. And
you never do until they try to eat you.
Well, I just want to let Debbie and Mike know that that their mics are open if they want to chime in at any time. I want to let everyone. Somebody have a computer on right now? Because we're getting feedback. Does anybody have a computer on? Okay, whatever it was.
No.
Okay. Wanted to let our callers know if you want to call in and ask a question, the number is 516-387-1692, and that number is 516-387-1692. You have about 9 minutes to call in before we roll over into archives. So, we are really getting the feedback. I don't know what's going on with that. Somebody definitely does not have a computer on with their speakers on. That would cause feedback. So, okay. Debbie and Mike, what do you think about what Gary's just shared with us?
Okay, can I say something?
Sure.
Since I've been talking about my encounter,
yeah, you were supposed to unleash. You were supposed to unleash tonight, too. Everybody is waiting with bated breath for you to unleash. So you've got to unleash tonight before archives.
Well, we're always going to have something for the next show, you know.
Okay. Now, I am not going to do my list, and I promise that. So you have to unleash something tonight. Go ahead.
Well, Lori, I've had people come back to me and tell me, the reason that I got attacked, the reason my attack, I was in their house, I was stealing their food, I pointed a gun at them. I can go along with that. But my question is, and I've got friends that this happens to, why do these creatures come over their fence at night, come to their house, look in their windows, kill their pets? I had a lady call me from Wisconsin the other day. She was in the dairy business, and she had a small little building behind her house, about 50 yards, and when her cows would get ready to calf, she would put them in there to calf, get them out of the weather, and she could watch them, okay? Well, the other night, she had a cow in there, just had a calf, about 2 days old, and she said all hell broke loose outside. Well, she's got lights everywhere, so she stepped outside, put her robe on, and she got halfway to the barn, about 50 feet, and she saw the doors was open, and she knew that something was going on. Well, about that time, two creatures stepped out. One of them had the baby calf. They took out around the back with a calf. She went in to check on the cow, and they had just about ripped that cow's head off. Now,
oh my God,
taking the calf is one thing, but why did they have to do that to that poor innocent cow? Now, getting back to me intruding in their home, they're intruding our homes. They're coming looking in our windows. Those two ladies that Debbie's talking about over there, we went and investigated, they had made them ladies' lives hell. They want to move. We can show you screens. They pull on the screens at night. They beat on the house. The ladies come up at night. They growl at them when they're trying to take their groceries in the house. One of the ladies has replaced 2 screen doors. They pulled the doors off the house. Now, that's, I can understand being mad at me, but, we're getting intruded on too.
Well, I'm not saying that there aren't, that they don't have the capability of being aggressive. I truly believe they can. I've heard stories. There's a story out of Honobia, Oklahoma, where a family was being terrorized by Bigfoot. And, they were terrorizing this family. And it's hard to say, honestly. I'm not trying to say that Bigfoot are teddy bears. They're not. They're not teddy bears at all. And I'm not trying to say that they're perfectly safe to be around. I've never had any encounters happen to me, but I'm not through living yet, and that could happen. I take that chance. But it's
I
because
think probably,
I know. I just need to know. I need to get out there, and I need to know. I need answers, and the only way I'm going to get the answers is not to be afraid and to go forward and speak. And but go ahead, Debbie. You were going to say something.
I think that Mike Wooley said a long time ago that, he felt, and I agree with this totally, that they're so human-like from his experience with them that I think that it would be conceivable to think that, like humans, there are good humans, there are bad humans. I don't see why that would be any different, and I'm sure there's different, quote, tribes, almost like, different races of human beings. We've got the Caucasoid, Mongoloid, Negroid race, and which doesn't connotate good or bad. It just connotates different. And the different races or tribes tend to cluster together, of course, and they can have different sensibilities. But I think the individual Sasquatch can have different sensibilities too. And consequently, some can be much more aggressive and mean, and other ones are going to be mild and, non-threatening. So, but, you don't know. If you have an encounter, you don't know what you're going to encounter. So, I would say, like Gary said, be cautious, know where you are at all times, but don't let the fear stop you. Just like with my experience when I heard that roar, it terrified me, it paralyzed me. But my curiosity and interest and desire to do the research and the desire to know is much greater than my fears.
Yes. That's the way I am too. Yes. And I agree with you there because, even in us humans, we have our bullies, we have our really evil, psychopathic personalities, and you're going to run into that in the Bigfoot race as well. And then on top of that, you've got to look at, there are so many different descriptions of Sasquatch. You've got the long-haired, sloped-shouldered, looks like apes. Then you have the tall, I've seen 2 different kinds. I've seen the one that I saw he was 10 foot tall. He had the long hair, the sloped shoulders, the sagittal crest on top of his head, apish looking face, and the way he was built, he was like a gigantic gorilla. And then I've seen the round head basketball player type body, long uniform arms and legs. Everything he just looked like a big, hairy person. Short hair. And I've noticed that behaviors, there are different behaviors. Like over in Mississippi, when I've gone to Mississippi, they are far more aggressive over there. They're bolder. They come out. And Mississippi is a great place to go if you want to experience Sasquatch, because they come right out. They will come right. They are not afraid of people there. North Texas is another place where the further south you get in Texas, the less aggressive they are. I think it's because territory-wise, they have a lot of territory. But when you start getting up in North Texas and southern Oklahoma, you run into more aggressive species. I've just a more aggressive Sasquatch because I think it's territory. It's territory.
I want to inject one thing on that map that they put out on the missing 411. One of the extreme clusters where a lot of people come up missing is in the southeastern part of Oklahoma.
Yeah, there you go. There you go right there. Because Honobia, where this happened, this one story I was telling you about the family being terrorized in southeastern Oklahoma. There's also a lot of stories come out of Oklahoma, especially central and southeast, of aggression, of people being abducted, of rape, and all kinds of things. That you just hear all these stories, and you know, me, I hear these stories that I'm just like, well, I'm not sure whether to believe everything I hear, because it's all hearsay. It's all coming down, hearsay. But yet at the same time, you start noticing that all these stories are being localized in certain areas. So
I want to inject it. The guy that's doing this research, he's very thorough. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but because he's a retired police officer. But all the information he gets comes out of FBI files, local police reports, and professional people that have gone in and investigated over the years. Now, the further back you get, going back 100 years, he has less information other than newspaper articles to work with. But the more recent accounts in these various places that in Oklahoma and in Colorado, there's a place there, Now also, he did say that he hasn't, in these books he didn't address Texas or Louisiana. And they asked him why in one of the interviews, and they're very good interviews. You can go on YouTube and listen to them because they're hour and a half long. But he said the reason why he didn't address Texas and Louisiana is he would have to do an entire book just on Texas and Louisiana because there was a great number of people that have come up missing at really odd places in Texas and Louisiana.
Gary, I don't know what I'm going to do with you.
You're going to have to quit telling me this stuff. Camping. Don't worry about it. I've just been trying to encourage you.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I figured out where the feedback was coming from. It's coming from Mike's phone. I don't know if he's got a TV going or something in the background. That it's. I'm going to go ahead and put Mike back on because it got quiet. Okay. Mike, do you have a TV or computer going on over at your house?
No, I sure don't.
That's so weird.
Are you still doing it?
No.
Are you still doing it? Okay,
no.
Well, I had the speaker on my phone. Maybe that was what was doing it.
Oh, probably so. Probably so. Love that. Well, hey, yay, we're now quiet. It's we have rolled over in archives, and I didn't get to tell our listeners, thanks for listening in, but thanks for listening in, everybody. But we're having a discussion right now about Bigfoot aggression. Mike, have you ever had a positive experience with Bigfoot that was not aggressive?
Yeah, I've seen some before in the woods, sneaking through the woods. And what I was talking about earlier, Lori, about the aggression they do and all. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tell everybody, and the point that I'm trying to get across is always when you're out there in the woods, be careful. I mean, listen to the woods. Listen to the woods. And old saying goes, don't turn your back. Always watch your back, okay? Don't think you're going out there and you're messing around with Harry and the Hendersons, Just be careful and know where you're at, know your surroundings, and just, watch yourself. I mean, there's all kind of other things out in the woods that can get you besides a Bigfoot, okay? There's all kind of dangers out there. But my question is, people, you want to go out there and camp out and do stuff like that. Well, just always think about, what am I going to do if I do have a bad encounter? What's plan B? Always have a plan B and have a plan C. That's the point I'm trying to get across. Do what you want to do. Go out there and have a good time. If that's what you like doing, and research and stuff like that, go out and have a good time. But just, have a plan B, in case something happens. What are you going to do? And, that's my main deal. But I've seen other ones before. I've seen 3 over there where Debi was talking about where that one screamed at her. Those particular creatures over in that area are a lot different than the one that run me off my deer stand. Those creatures are 3-toed, and they got monkey faces. That's the first I've ever seen of that. I've never, the ones that, I was dealing with, down 100 miles south of there, that's the first I've ever seen of that.
Wow. I remember the very first one that I ever saw, Mike. I saw him. It was by accident. I was not expecting to see anything. I was in my front yard at night, about midnight, and I was on the telephone, and I was letting my little dog out. And I heard something growling from across the road. And I kept hearing this growling, just same sound over and over. And I thought, we lived not too far from the lake. I thought, and the lake was down that year. It was a real drought type situation, and I thought that there was a boat possibly stuck on a sandbar because it was so repetitive. But after a while, I just got the feeling that something was growling at me, and so I went in the house and got a spotlight, and I was scanning the woods. I couldn't see anything at all, and so anyway, the person on the telephone said, scan the wood line, just go down the wood line, see if you see anything. Well, I did. I pointed it on down the woods, and then when I reached the end as far as I could go, there was a home there. I saw something move in the outer ring of the spotlight. And so I jerked it back, and I caught him as he was standing there, but he turned his head away from the light because it was so bright. It was a 2 million candle spotlight. But I got a really good look at him. And I want to tell you, all I could say over and over and over again, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. I could not believe what I was seeing. He was lanky, covered in hair, about the color of pine needles, reddish. It was kind of a short hair, or very sleek. He was muscular, but he was not bulked out. But he was pretty wide across the shoulders, probably 3.5 feet. I could only see from the rib cage up. The rest that was obscured by yopons that he was standing behind. But he ducked down, immediately ducked down and left. the area. And I went into the house, and for about 3 or 4 hours, I don't know what happened. I think I went into shock, as I don't recall for about 3 or 4 hours what occurred during that time. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, I stayed up that entire night, and the next morning I contacted a Bigfoot researcher on the internet, and they came all the way from Arlington to do some research. And I wouldn't go back there until that person arrived. And when we got there, went back there, it smelled bad. There was a smell there. It smelled like excrement, musk, pee, and vomit. It was just really a bad smell, but yet we couldn't find anything that, like any kind of evidence there that would make that smell. Right there at the tree where he'd been standing, it was worn bare. He'd been standing there a lot, watching my house. Mm-hmm. And I had been having the feeling that I'd been being watched, but I thought it was my creepy neighbor. You know, I didn't really think it was, I never thought it was what it was. I didn't even believe in Bigfoot at all. I never watched the Legend of Boggy Creek. I never watched the Patterson film. I never watched it. I didn't believe in it. I just absolutely did not believe in it. Well, I helped her measure. It was a female that came from Arlington. I helped her measure, and he was 11 foot tall. And we measured from the tree. He was 11 foot tall. And that's not unusual for down here. We've had other witnesses have seen him up to 12 feet tall here in this area. And so it was so weird, though, because when I watched him, as he bent down, it was almost like, it's weird. I got that feeling like I offended him. Like he, it's hard to explain, like he liked me, like for a girlfriend or something. I'm not sure. But that because I was so horrified at the sight of him, it offended him. It was that feeling that I got. It was a real strange experience all the way around, but I was absolutely terrified of him. I was going in the woods a lot at this time, and for a long time there I didn't, until I got to studying about them and learning about them, and education is so important. Because, you know, if you're afraid of something, it's the best thing you can do is get as educated as you can on the subject, because education is what takes that fear away. When you learn what it is that you're afraid of. I'm still scared of spiders, and I know all about them. Well, I'm not so afraid of them anymore, but all those times that I was out in the woods by myself, something could have happened to me. I had been, I've been told by people, don't go out there. Even my neighbors were saying, you really shouldn't be going out in the woods by yourself. And I said, why not? And I said, well, there's things out there you don't know about. Well, they knew about them. But they weren't going to tell me that there's Bigfoot out there, because I would look at them like, hell, y'all are a bunch of crazy rednecks. I mean, I know that's what they would think I thought. And I probably would have told them that, too. Like, I would have laughed. And then when I had that experience, then I knew what they were talking about. Because I kept saying, what in the world are you talking about? What's out there? And they're like, well, you don't really want to know. That's the answer I would get. And I had 2 or 3 neighbors tell me that. And I just kept on going.
Just remember that this David Paulides that wrote these books, he is located. I know him. He's located 28 clusters across the country where people have come up missing in these parks. And also the big thing is a lot of the information he's had to use the Freedom of Information Act to get, the Park Service just flat refuses to give him the information. For whatever reason, it's like they know what's going on, but of course they don't want to cause a panic. They don't want to run the people off from the parks.
Well, exactly. It's tourism. It's all about money, and it's all about money. And I'm a huge conspiracy theorist, but I believe it is all about money. It is the logging industry would be definitely take a blow, even the oil and gas industry, and then you're talking about tourism. So you've got three big industries that bring this country money. They don't want to mess it up. You know, it'd be a whole other spotted owl thing. So,
Lori,
that's fascinating.
Lori, I think the reason, you know, that morning you said that you had behind your house, you think you got mad at you because of the way he looked. I think the reason is he kind of got ticked off is because you saw him. He had been, like you said, there was proof that he'd been doing that for quite a while. There's no telling how long he'd been doing it. Well, when you busted him, well, you know, he knew his game was over, that you knew he was there. See, they don't want you to know they're around. And that's how elusive, that's why how so elusive they are. You know, I know a guy over there in Garrison, Texas. I don't know how far that is from you. But he went in his kitchen.
Oh, my God, that's right in my backyard just about. Let's hear this story. I want to hear it.
He went in his kitchen one night. It was dark. He turned his light on and going to wash his hands in the sink and looked out the window, and there was one staring him right in the face through the glass.
That happened to my son. That happened to my son.
He showed him his teeth.
Wow.
He showed him his teeth.
I would die.
He showed him his teeth.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. I had an incident where one came up. Well, I just want to say this. I had one that came up to my window one time while I was in bed. I had the window open, and I could hear him breathing outside the window. And I could not. I wanted to turn around and shut the window, but I couldn't move. And there was literally maybe 2.5 feet between that window and where I was laying. And my bed was level with the window. And I was terrified. I couldn't even hardly breathe. You know,
you still live there?
I knew he... No, I moved. But I never slept with that window open again. I promise you that.
Wow.
But go ahead, Debbie. You were saying something?
Oh, I was just going to say this is fascinating. I'm riveted by your stories. I am going to have to jump, though. I'm in Memphis, actually, at my children's home. And so I'm leaving tomorrow, so I'm going to have to run. But I have so thoroughly enjoyed this. And
thank you so much for coming on, Debbie.
So much for having us on. It's just been a pleasure. So
we are very thankful that you came on, and we've really enjoyed you as a guest. You wonderful guest.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
And you're a wonderful host, and thank you for inviting us. So you guys take care. Have a great night.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Gary and Mike, we're on.
Well, you know, you were asking me about some other things that happened to me before, different things. You know, I was...
yes, are you going to unleash?
I'll unleash some, but, you know, it's a show business now. We got to keep them wanting more.
Okay. Well, you've got to unleash
we got to sell some seats, you know. No, I was where I had that encounter one time, where I got run off that deer stand. One day I killed a deer back there. I must have hunted that stand 6 or 7 times before the encounter happened. But that was a beautiful deer, 7-point buck, big deer, about 225 pounds. And I went to get my truck, which was a half a mile away, and you know, and I was probably gone 15 minutes. And when I got back, the deer was gone, and nobody was around me for 2 or 3 miles. And, you know, I didn't hear no four-wheeler. And somehow, some way, by the time I went to get the truck, by the time I could get back 15, 20 minutes later, that deer was gone. And, you know, I made a clean kill. I checked the deer was dead. Deer was dead at, you know, doorknob. And He was gone. So, you know, I looked around for drag marks, and there was no drag marks. And something had come in there and grabbed the deer. Now, I can't say it was a Bigfoot because I didn't see him do it. But, you know, what else could have done it, you know? Another strange instance, I went back there one day to go hunting. I got on my stand about 4 o'clock one evening, and it smelled horrible back there.
What did it smell like?
Smelled like something dead, that had been dead.
Okay.
Just really, really just horrible. I mean, it'd burn your eyes. And so first thing hit my mind that somebody had got back there and got on my deer stand and killed a deer and field dressed it somewhere around my deer stand.
Yeah.
Well, I knew my hunt was over because of the smell, and so I got down. I got to looking around. I said, you know, I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna make sure. You know, I'm gonna see where the guts. You know, I'm gonna find the guts of this thing. They're smelling. I'm gonna find them. I looked and I looked. I made a circle, and every time I would, you know, get a little bigger. And I circled and I circled and I looked and I looked and I looked and looked. I didn't find nothing. Okay. I looked up the sky to see if any buzzards were circling, you know, because I knew if I could see some buzzards, I could pretty much hone in on it. I didn't see no buzzards. Well, I left. I said, you know, I'll come back in the morning and try it again. I went back the next morning early, and there was no smell. The smell was gone.
Wow.
So,
you know, is that, okay, you smelled something dead that time. What are the other kinds of smells that you've smelled? And Gary, I want you to chime in as well. If you ever smelled anything that you thought might be a Sasquatch, and what did it smell like?
Well, I've spent a lot of time in the woods, especially when I was younger, and I've smelled a lot of things dead in the past, but you know, I didn't back in those days. I didn't have much knowledge about Bigfoot. I mean, I saw a movie, you know, Boggy Creek Monster, Legend of Boggy Creek, but you know, there wasn't no internet. There wasn't very many books out there, and you know, I think back to those days, and I remember seeing a lot of things. You know, especially the broken over trees and limbs and peculiar shapes and all, and I remember seeing a lot of that. But I didn't know what I was looking at. I just assumed, that was the wind did that, you know. It really wasn't until the advent of the internet and I started reading, you know, what other people have been seeing, what they've been finding out, that it started dawning on me, you know, hey, these things were been all around me all these years, and I never knew it, you know. I know a particular instance where, and I was telling Mike about that here the other day, where me and two other fellows, we took a little 14-foot flat-bottom boat, and there was a bayou called Rab's Bayou. To this day, it goes way back into an area just northwest of Dayton, which is near Liberty, where they've had a lot of sightings. I mean, it's just maybe 10, 15 miles through there, just deep woods, and very few people go in there except maybe a few hunters. And we're exploring this little bayou, and we went most of the day back in there, and you know, it was pretty neat back there. It was almost like a little hidden estuary or whatever. You know, there were a lot of animals, deer and stuff, come down to the water and all that. Well, on the way out, we encountered several trees that all of a sudden were across the stream. It was a fairly narrow stream that were laying across the stream that we ended up having to pull the boat across. So there was one that we were able to kind of get all the back and kind of scoot it over, you know, hit it. It was just a few inches below the water and hit it just fast enough to slide over it, pull the motor up. But that was odd, you know. I thought, well, where did these trees come from? You know, I said, well, they must just fell, you know. But 3 in a row, you know, when there wasn't any, when we went in there, you know, and I'm starting to think, well, kind of like the situation where you I think you encountered or something had been thrown across the trail or whatever. Maybe that's what we were running into back there, and I just didn't know it. You know, this is back in the early 70s, and I just didn't know it. Didn't know what I was looking at, you know. Now, I did have a friend that was on a hunting lease north of Dayton, actually north of Kennefic, and him and two other fellas, they were on four-wheelers. They'd put out deer feeders and things like that along a trail, a game trail down by the Trinity River, and they had shut the motors off on the four-wheelers, and in a short while, they said it was just like it came up on them, but they started smelling something that was like just horrible. It was just a horrible stink, and they were looking at each other and said, "What stinks?" You know, that wasn't here a while ago. And all of a sudden, they heard this roar that just made their flesh crawl, and they cranked up back to the cabin they had up near the drive on the way in, you know. And it was starting to get dark, and in a little while, that stink suddenly appeared up there, and then they heard that roar again. Well, they all packed them in. And Jason, he always told me, he said that was the scariest thing he ever had to do, because it was a long driveway out to the highway. And when he got down there, he was on the outside of the pickup. There were three of them in this pickup. And he was the one that had to get out and unlock that gate. And it was just pitch black. There wasn't a moon that night. And he just had visions of something grabbing him, which never happened. But it caused them, the next day, they came back. And they gathered everything up, took their feeder out of there, loaded their four-wheelers, and he gave it all up and did not go back. As a matter of fact, he sold his four-wheeler, and he don't go hunting anymore. So...
Well, you know, that reminds me of a story here where I live now. At one time, there was another house out here, and it's just before I moved out here. This was back in the 70s. And they had a big log home, and something came up that terrified all their animals. They had horses and, you know, things like that, and it terrified all their animals for just trying to bust out of their stalls, and their dogs had run up under the house, and it was a smell, just this god-awful smell, undescribable, that was moving. They could tell it was moving, because first they could smell it coming in one window, then they could smell it coming in on the other side of the house. It was circling their house. And whatever it was had every animal on the place absolutely terrified. And, of course, they never saw anything, never heard anything. It was just the smell, the stench. I think they had a Sasquatch, is what I think. And that was not very far. That was just maybe through the woods, 30 feet, 50 feet from where I live now.
Wow.
And that was, and here where I live now, I've had a lot of activity and experiences. But I live out
you're near what town? You're near what town?
Nacogdoches. But I live south of Nacogdoches, like on the Angelina River.
Okay.
So
right.
I live...
You're on the Angelina National Forest then?
Yes. I'm right on the edge of it. Right on the edge of Sam Rayburn Lake. So, it's pretty. I'm surrounded by a lot of private land though, and so it makes it really kind of hard for me to get out and unless I get permission, to go on other people's land. That basically, I have 4 acres here, and I've had a lot of experiences here in the last 10 years. When I first moved here, I had a lot, and then it kind of got slow. I had another researcher come out and put up game cameras. He got shots or something, but as far as I know, he's never developed that film, which I'd love to see what he got on there. But after that, for about 4 years, I had nothing. It was dead. If you want to get rid of them, put up a game camera. I'm truly good at that. They don't like that at all.
Bob Garrett, who lives locally, that's been doing 30 years worth of research in the Sam Houston National Forest. That's what he said, and he thinks that they can actually see in infrared, or they can actually see those.
I believe you. I believe you. I had a game camera when the other experience that I was talking about happened in Zavala, Texas, down down on the Sam Rayburn Lake, but a little further south. I put up a game camera, and I was also simultaneously recording at the same time. Well, I listened to the recording, and this was back when game cameras had regular cameras in them with film. And I was listening to it. I heard something walk up bipedally, heard it messing around out there. I said, oh, I have got him. Because I looked at the game camera. I had 6 shots that had been taken. I said, I've got him. I got him. So I rushed all the way to Lufkin to get this film developed. It was nothing but white. Well, when I'd gone out there to get the camera, it was laying face down. I had it kind of leaning up against an old black battery, so it looked like it was part of the battery. I was trying to be real coy there. They had walked up behind it and just flipped it over on its face, so it took 6 shots of the ground. And it continued to walk around in the area, and I got a recording of them walking around, but I got no picture of them. Also, had this happen, I thought I'd be more ingenious. I put the game camera up underneath the shop building where it was out of view, but yet it could take pictures of anything at my window. This was the same house I had it standing and breathing, so I was trying to catch him at my window. This other event was not the only time he had come to my window. So I set it up under the shop building. Well, there were no trees in the area that my husband had made sure all the trees were cut down. Yet there were all these sticks over there in front of it where they were throwing sticks in front of that game camera to set the camera off. And so the whole thing was shot up. There were pictures of cat. There was pictures of nothing. Looked like a stick in front of it, but it was so close you couldn't tell exactly what it was, but it was, something narrow. And there were all these sticks laying there. Where they were trying to, I believe they were throwing sticks in front of it, trying to set that thing off. They knew it was there. Like you say, I think that they could see some sort of the infrared light. Yeah. I don't know. It baffles me.
Well, I know one of those interviews I heard, there's people in Oklahoma that were having a lot of problem where they were coming to their house, and after midnight they said they'd be knocking on the door, knocking on the window, and looking in the window at them, growling, and just tormenting the heck out of them. That they put a lot of motion-sensitive lights all around the perimeter of their house and outside on the barn, and they said it worked for a little while, and then they started putting the sticks in the ground, whatever they were, and if they walked inside that stick, they knew that the light would come on. And then, so he got rid of the sticks, and then the next time he went out there, all of they figured out that the little sensor part that caused the lights to come on, all the lights had been turned or bent over to point straight up in the air where they wouldn't come on. So, they're kind of smart little boogers,
Yes, they are.
They can reason,
They can, and that's what amazed me. I could not believe I was being outsmarted. I tried everything. I tried climbing up in a tree and tying the game camera to a branch so that if anything walks under that tree, it'd get them. Nothing.
Well, there was one idea that I thought was kind of interesting to try, and I would install it somewhere else, and then then put it out in the field somehow or another with it turned on, so in case they're watching you put it up. But one guy came up with the idea of buying a couple of bird houses and mounting them, doing this in the garage or whatever, mounting the camera in the birdhouse where it just looks out the little hole, and then putting them up,
Well, and that's an idea too. I thought about. I've noticed that I've got 2 very shaky videos of possible Sasquatch, and I was when I walked into the area that I was pretty sure they were in, I would point the camera. I'd be carrying the video camera, and I'd point it out to my right and back, because that's how I would always be followed, is on my right and behind me. So I'd point it back that way. Well, of course, all you're getting is kind of shaky because you're walking, plus you're getting possible glimpses. Nothing, wasn't really getting anything. And I had thought about also that when I'm stationary in an area, they tend to come up behind you. And so I thought about setting up a camera like in a cooler or something, rig it up where it's in the cooler, set it in front of you where it's pointed at you, but yet you could see everything behind you,
Right.
And see if maybe you could catch them sneaking up on you and observing you.
That's what happened
one
to
time.
That's what happened to that trapper, that Teddy Roosevelt wrote about in the 1890s that got killed. He was sitting at the fire, looking at the fire, and the tracks showed that the thing come up behind him, and he had actually bite marks on the back of his head, and then it snapped his head. It snuck up behind him and grabbed him from the woods. But
I did this one time. I was being followed. I knew I was being followed. I knew it was one of them because there was strong urine smell. And so I found this big tree. So I got behind the tree where he couldn't see me. And so he comes around. I can hear him just very quietly coming around. And as he was coming around, I kept getting behind the tree. Well, he got more and more careless because he couldn't see me anymore. And every time he'd come around, I'd just keep going around the tree. I was basically playing games with him. And after a while, I never could see him. But I knew he was there, and I know anyone that's listening to this probably thought I was insane. That I was imagining it, that I really wasn't doing this with him or her or whatever. But this really did happen. And it was fascinating to me because it was like it was his job to keep his eye on me. It was his job, and I was just making it very difficult for him. But after a while, he just stopped. We kind of went around the tree a couple of times, and then he finally just stopped. I don't know if he left. I don't know if he just decided to stay put. I don't know what happened, but I finally left the area. So,
Lori?
Yeah.
Lori? I want to mention a couple counters. I'm fixing to come unleashed on you.
Oh, well, I've been hanging on just so that you will. I got
17% battery power left, so I'm going to have to get after it.
Okay.
No, one time I built a deer stand, and it was an old ladder deer stand. I got a couple 14-foot 2x4s and cut some 2x4s and made me some steps, put my plywood seat on it, and I took it and put it out in the woods about probably a little over a mile from where I told you this turkey incident happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got it situated, took it there, put it up. And one morning, I got out there about 5:15, got on my stand, and I was facing to the west, and I'll never forget, it was a cool morning, but I'd been on the stand about 20 minutes, and I heard something behind me, and it took about 4 or 5 steps, and it just stopped. And I got to thinking, is that a deer? And so then all of a sudden I heard that, Well,
wow.
I didn't. I got to thinking.
Like a hog almost.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking,
Uh-huh.
Well, I listened, and next thing I know, I heard a couple steps. Well, nothing for a while. Okay, and then I just got that feeling, and then all of a sudden, now I'm 14 foot in the air. Okay, my stand's 14 foot tall,
Uh-huh.
and something just tapped the side of my stand, just tapped. Not real fierce, aggressive, nothing like that, you know. And I'm thinking, well, either it's a deer or it's a hog, you know. Well, about 2 minutes later, something almost shook me off of that stand. And, man, I was telling Gary, I'm ashamed to tell this, but I was so scared that, you know, I said, oh, my God, you know, there's something down there. Well, I took my rifle, and I put it between my legs, pointing straight down that deer stand, you know. And I had a flashlight in my hand, pointing that way. But I was telling Gary, I'm kind of afraid and ashamed to tell this, I did not have the guts to turn that flashlight on, you know, because I was so afraid. I was so afraid what I might see, you know.
Yes,
well,
exactly.
Anyway, probably that run you out of the woods that time.
You know, but what I did when I clicked that safety off that rifle, and it went, you know how they'll do?
Yeah.
And I heard it took like 3 or 4 steps, long steps, and it was gone. I didn't hear no more. That was it. But something shook my deer stand hard. It shook it hard. And I put that gun between my legs and that flashlight, and I was so scared I would not turn that light on. I hate to tell that, but
no,
you know,
there's nothing. Don't be ashamed to tell that, because that is a normal reaction. Your imagination of imagining what it was down there is probably more scary than if you had turned on that flashlight, but you weren't going to try it.
Mm-hmm.
I know, golly, I've been the same way. It was just like, please go away. Please go away. Please go away, you know.
That's what I was telling that one that day on that stand that got chased me out of the woods. I was thinking, man, if you go back where you come from, I'll go back where I come from, and you can have these damn deer. Every damn deer in these woods, you know.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, he wanted some Mike Wooley victuals, I think, after that. He lost the deer, and you look better in the stew pot than the deer now.
Yeah. I went squirrel hunting back in 1974 after I got off work one day, and my wife had bought me this little Marlin 22 rifle. And I don't know why I took it in the woods. I can't hit with no 22. You know, you use shotgun, but I wanted to take.
I know a lot of people die by 22, so it's not that undeadly.
I can't. You know, I can't hit nothing. Well, I was hunting about 7 miles from my house, and Old Creek was on the side of the road. I just pulled my car over the side of the road by the bridge, and I went walking down this old, kind of like an old branch. You know, we call them branches. You know how they're down in the bottom, and if you go stand down at the bottom, you look up, it's 15, 20 foot to the ground level, you know. Well, I'd hunted that before, and it had been a week or two before it'd been my last time I'd been in there, and I got down there a ways, and I noticed this big sweet gum tree that was growing on the edge of the creek. It blew over, and I'm going to the east, and the tree had fell to the south. And that was around the middle of 1st October, and the leaves were still pretty good on the tree. The sweet gum tree had leaves on it. Well, I couldn't really see on the other side. I thought, how am I going to get around it? But anyway, cut to the chase. I must have been about 30, 40 yards from the tree, and I saw this cat squirrel. And he was on that tree. He was on one of the limbs, you know, up about, 7, 8 foot, you know. So I take that 22 rifle, and I cut down on him. And it's got like 18 rounds in it. And I'm just shooting away at the squirrel. Pow, 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 pow. Well, boy, all of a sudden I hear roar. I sound like a bear. Man, just a hell of a roar. And on the other side of the tree, there was like two other little trees, probably 7, 8 foot apart, and they're growing up probably 40, 50 feet. Well, both of them trees are shaking. I can see them. Something is shaking both of those trees. It must be. I thought it was a bear.
Yeah.
Okay. So back then, I didn't know about no Bigfoot. So I thought, man, I must have hit it. You know, I shot about 18 times in there, and I must have been a bear on the other side of that tree, and I must have hit him. He's mad now. Well, I heard the growl, and the trees is shaking the trees, 2 trees, and there's little holes that you could see through, just a little bit of glimpse on the other side, and I saw some black, and I said, that's a bear. So I'm thinking, I better get out of here. So I run all the way to my car, and, man, I got the hell out of there. So, I don't know if that could have been a Bigfoot then. I thought it was a bear I hit. But, man,
okay, do you have bear in your area? I know Louisiana has black bear.
But
are they pretty common? Do you see them very often over here in Louisiana?
No.
Oh, okay, same here. They're supposed to be here, too, but I've never seen a track. I've never seen any evidence of them. Well,
whatever it was, I think it was standing on the other side of that tree, and when I shot at that squirrel, I must have clipped it because I shot about 18 times. And, man, it growled at me. It roared. And then 2 trees, probably about 10 foot apart, they were shaking. I could see the tops of the trees shaking, It was shaking them. It was mad. And, man, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a bear. But, I don't think a bear could have stood between 2 trees like that and shook them, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Now, they will push on trees. I've seen video of them doing that.
Well,
it's just that bears is not real common around here in these parks. You and I live pretty much in the same kind of ecosystem, and I haven't seen. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
That's a pretty wild deal.
Yes, sir. Well, guys.
There's a video right now that I posted on my wall. I don't know if anybody's seen it, where a guy's in a deer stand. It reminded me of Mike, and a black bear. He's sitting there.
Oh,
and he's looking. The black bear comes all the way up the tree and looks him. 2 inches from him. And I guess he's paralyzed with that. He's got some kind of little camera or phone camera or something. And the bear looks at him, sniffs him over, and then crawls back down the tree and walks off. And he kind of starts family around and says,
I would have missed my chance. That would have scared me. I'd have been so scared. And that the best thing you can do around bears is not show fear. But there would be no hope for me. For the bear to come up there. And where are you going to go? When you're up in a tree stand, that bear is up there with you.
Yeah, crawled up to him, looked him in the face, sniffed him, and went back down the tree.
Yeah, then he puts the camera on himself and goes, "Oh shit."
Yeah, that reminded me of Mike. Because he must have been 20 foot up. It looked like on one of those ladder stands, and I thought, that'd been funny if Mike was sitting up there and that was a Bigfoot that crawled up that tree and looked him in the face.
Oh gosh.
Well, I'll tell you what I did.
Well, go ahead.
I'll tell you what I did there at that same spot one time before that tree had fell. I stepped on I had all kind of crap happen there. I was walking along one day, and there was a tree. I don't forget what kind of tree it was, but there was something laying under it, and I thought it was a rope, and I stepped on it. And about that time, I thought, well, there wasn't no rope there the other day. I looked at it, it raised its head, and it was a humongous rattlesnake. And I guess he was sunning himself. He was stretched out, and he must have been asleep. He must have been asleep or something. Well, my foot went all the way down. I remember how soft he was, and man, I seen that head pop up, and I jumped back. I went to blasting, and needless to say, that squirrel hunting trip was over. And I was squirrel hunting one day, and I would walk up on top of the creek, and I would hear squirrels, down in the bottom. They would climb down the edges of the bank and get water and stuff, and I would hear them, and I would sneak up there real quiet, and I would wait on them, and when they would climb up the other side, I'd pop them, When they got up high enough, I didn't have to climb down in there to get them. And I killed a lot of squirrels that way. Well, one day I heard some rustling down in the creek, and it's about 15 feet down, from the top of the bank to the bottom. So I said, there's a squirrel down there, and I'm gonna ease down there, I'm gonna get ready to pop him, Well, I eased down there, and golly, I looked over in there, and there was one of the biggest black panthers I ever saw in my life.
Wow, how lucky are you? Those are so rare to see.
Yeah, he was drinking water, and I'll never forget, his head was facing to the north, and he didn't see me. And he must have been from the tip of his nose to the tip of his tail 9 feet long, 8 or 9 feet.
Oh,
and he had that tail, just flipping that tail. And now there again, I'm frozen, just like when I saw that Bigfoot. Man, I couldn't move. I was so scared. Man, I was shaking. And he just, like I said, it's 15 feet to the top. He just took one leap to the north side, and he went on straight on through the woods.
Wow.
But that area where I hunted was known for panthers. Everybody would talk about how they saw black panthers in there.
Uh-huh.
So,
wow.
But I saw that one that day. I'll never forget. I thought
well, they're
squirrel
supposed to not exist. I mean, I can't tell you how many game wardens, how many park rangers told me they don't exist. People are not seeing what they think they're seeing. Not talking about Bigfoot, talking about black panthers. They say that there's no such thing. And I know there is. It's like, and also like they try to say there are no wolves down in here. I've seen 3 wolves. I know there's wolves down. It wasn't a coyote, it was a wolf. So I've recorded what I know is wolves. They said, where'd you get these wolf recordings? And I said, right here. No, we don't have wolves down here. And I said, well, yeah, we do. You must not get out of your truck.
Yeah, we got wolves. We have wolves for sure.
Well, I know that the wolves which I've personally seen in Yellowstone National Park, after they released them up there, now they're populating all over the place. The first ones they put up there, they put transmitters on them, and I read where they found one that was hit by a truck, killed on I-70 just west of Denver. So that shows you, and they were released in Yellowstone Park, shows you how far that one particularly traveled, and you could probably have had more out of that park that even went further south than that, and then had young, mated and had young, and then those scatter out, and they theoretically come all the way down here and live,
Well, it's true. I know they're here. I know what I saw was not a coyote. It was too big to be a coyote. And I've heard just the howl and are different than a coyote. And,
sure, wasn't a dogman, one of those dog squatches?
No, you were gonna do me in, aren't you, Jerry?
Well, one of those has been seen by a very reliable person, like I said, down here in Liberty County, the south of Liberty. I think I told you at the last radio show we did, but she was coming back from Anahuac, heading toward Liberty, and she had her little son with her. She had a brand new one of those little small cars. I forgot what it was, but one ran across the road. It was on all fours, but it was almost as big as her car, and it had a pig in its mouth. And you know how big a pig is. Well, I don't know if it was a full-grown pig, but it was carrying it in its mouth, and she laid on the brakes, and it kind of hesitated and turned and looked at her with these yellow eyes, and then just like one leap was off the road. And I've been to that spot. There's a little little wood frame church, the black church, and right beside it there's an animal trail that runs off, and it goes straight west into the Trinity River bottoms, and also there's a big game reserve that stretches miles in there, that actually stretches up north of the town of Liberty and connects with the big thicket up there. And we have those things that have a kind of a dog-looking or wolf-looking face. She said it looked kind of like a hyena, the face, and it kind of reddish fur. So, there's evidently at least 3 varieties of these things,
That's true. And I had a witness that told me, and he's a reliable witness, and he saw what looked like a werewolf west of Nacogdoches, out on Highway 7. They were on motorcycles when they saw it cross the road. And he said that it was a very long ride back to Nacogdoches. They just really felt like they were very vulnerable being on those motorcycles after they saw that. So, but
well, she works for the sheriff's department. She's in her early 30s. She works for the sheriff's department. I think she's dispatcher or whatever. And her little boy,
ex-sheriff's department that saw this, so I consider him a reliable source. So.
Yeah, well, her little 14-year-old son was with her, and once again, that's not one of those things that terrified him. He grew up hunting with his dad, and now he spends his time in the house with his tablet or his iPhone or whatever, and he don't go in the woods no more.
I don't blame him there. Well, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up. We have to get up and go to work in the morning, me and Lauren, and so I wanted to thank y'all for coming on the show. We're definitely going to have to do it again. You know that?
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure, and maybe I'll be able to get up your way, maybe in October when they're doing one of the Bigfoot conferences.
Yes, that would be awesome. Or anytime you want to come. Anytime you want to come, I'll take you out to some of my areas and show you around.
Okay.
It's kind of hot right now, but when it cools off, we'll get out there and do it. And I would love that. I'd love to get this.
Well, Mike and I have already talked about maybe getting together up there and going over to a casino and spend some time talking to one thing and another, and maybe get some good food.
Okay.
So maybe we can call you up and invite you to come over and meet us,
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. I would love to do that. That's not
Lori,
that far.
Yeah, Lori, I want to thank you again for having us on the show, and anytime you want us, we'll be more than happy to come back. And Gary, I'll give you a call.
I hope y'all don't think I was
morning.
getting my feathers ruffled over the mean old Bigfoot stories, Honestly, I've heard everything, so I really wasn't,
Yeah, we were pulling the bad cop, good cop on you. We just wanted to see how you stood.
I stand right in the middle.
And Mike, you never did get around to that good story that I liked about the big, huge, Bramer bull that got his butt kicked. I always liked that story.
Well, I'll have to tell you that next time you run out of time. That's a good one. I'll tell you next time.
Okay. Okay, I'm definitely going to have y'all back. Y'all are great guests. And I tell you what, tell Debi thank you again for me for coming on. I really enjoyed having her. And I enjoyed having you guys too. Really, it's been a great show. I've had a really great time. Very good stories. Very good stories. Very good witness encounters. And Gary, I want to thank you for your theories. That's very interesting. In fact, I've kind of thought in that direction too. So.
Yeah. Well, just go on the internet and just Google Giants of the Bible and there's another guy named C.H. Quarterman. He's an evangelist and end time preacher, and he's got a lot of stuff, and he's actually personally had an eyewitness Bigfoot sighting, and that's what he thinks they are. And then also on his site there is a video that somebody shot of this one going across the road, so up in North Carolina. So it looks pretty good to me. So I don't know.
I'll sure do that. You guys are great. I want to thank all our listeners for coming and listening to our show and listening to the archives, because they'll have been listening to it to this point. And so I thank everyone for coming on. Lauren, I thank you for staying up with me. And I guess we are going to go ahead and call it a night, guys. Thank you so much for coming
Well,
on.
okay. Well, I'll talk to you in the morning. Gary.
All right. Sounds good.
You too.
All
Take
right.
care.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Lauren. Are you going to roll the outro?
And that's the end of Mike Wooley and Memorium Part 2. Thank you all for listening. Have a wonderful and safe Easter, and we'll see you back on April 28th, 2019 with a fresh new guest. Have a great one, and good night.
Thank you for listening to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio.